Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video I thought I would take some pictures and do some editing of them to show you how I edit my photos. I am not a professional editor by any means, I'm very much an amateur, and my focus on editing has been to be able to edit my photos quickly, and I'm using Lightroom, the CC version. I was originally using Capture One, but I was finding that it was taking quite a long time to edit each picture, and it was putting me off editing the pictures basically. And I was finding that I was spending so much time editing that I would go out, do a photo shoot, get home, and I just couldn't be bothered doing any of the editing. Now obviously a lot of people use Capture One and they really like it, so I do understand that it's a learning curve for me. But I moved over to Lightroom because some of the tutorials that I watched basically showed that you can edit multiple photos very quickly. So I give it a try, and I have to say that based on my experience with Lightroom and Capture One, that Lightroom just seems to be much faster, at least for me, to provide at least some basic edits on these photos. So I thought I'd go through one or two images and do some edits. Okay, so here we have my lovely dad. He's finally smiling. And the first thing that I usually do is I change the color profile to landscape. You can see it just makes the colors pop a little bit more. There is a portrait color profile, but I just prefer the landscape. Then I always just do the auto. And I know that some of you may be watching this and you may be thinking this is an easy way out, and it is, but I'm still quite new to editing, and I just find hitting the auto just helps to put some basic edits in and get some nice colour going without too much effort on my part. So this is a bit of a time saver for me. Now there is a presets section. I have some saved presets, some that I created, did very basic, but some that I created, some that I've downloaded. And Lightroom also has a recommended section, which I believe is driven by AI. I tend to not use this anymore. When I was originally editing my photos, when I first got Lightroom, I was pretty much exclusively using this. But over time, I found some presets that I quite like, so I've saved them, and I tend to use these quite often. But what I like to do first, I like to go through the image, add my own edit to it, and then use some of these presets so I can sort of compare and contrast them. Okay, so I've added the auto, changed the profile to landscape. I don't really do much with a point curve. It's a bit out of my knowledge at the moment. This is on my to learn list. We have some colour balancing here. Sometimes I just have a quick look just to see if it changes it to my liking. But as you can see on this particular shot, it just brings in too much brown, too much warmth for my liking. So I'm going to leave it as it is. Each photographer has their own style, and my style is basically whacking this texture up. I just really like it. It just makes the images look a lot sharper. One tip that I learned from other YouTubers, other content creators, is to go to the extremes and see what it looks like. So you can see here, moving the texture all the way down makes the image look very soft. Moving it all the way to the right, and it's just too sharp, basically. So I generally just start and just move it slowly up, and think about here. And then we've got the clarity, same again, so moving it all the way down really blurs things. Moving it up, that's just too much. So usually add just a little bit. Then we've got the dehaze. Ugh. I think I'm fine with that as it is. I do quite like adding a vignette. I think it helps to bring focus to the subject, so I'm going to add a little bit of a vignette in here. Now we always have a look at the colour mixer. Is there any colours here that I want to make stand out? So my dad's blue hat, can we enhance that blue a little bit? The only problem with that is it's making the water behind him, a bit more blue as well, so I might just add a little bit. And then we can darken it as well if we want to, but I don't want to do that. I don't think it looks that great. We've got the sand. We've got the option of enhancing the colour on that sand, but do we need to? No, it's making his face too orange, so I think we're going to leave that. And that's it for me. That's my very basic edit. Ooh, very scary. So that's my very basic edit. And then what I would do is I would then export it. I will normally do it as full size, and for the purposes of sharing it online, I always set the quality to 50%, so it makes the file size a lot smaller. I have my own watermark, and I've started to give my images their own custom name, so I always give it a date of when we went, or when their pictures were taken, or the start of the holiday. So in this case it was the 4th of April 2023. And then roads, and then obviously there's a start number there, so the image name increments. And that's job done basically. Then after I've added my own edits, what I like to do is I like to look at the presets. I do like the black and white filters. I always like to do a black and white version. I have a couple saved. Oceanfront I really like, and The Purge, and you can see the names of the people who created these presets. So Andre Mariana and Christoph Piminger. I think I'm going to go with Oceanfront on this one. So it's really easy, just simply click. You can change the amount, you can make it stronger or weaker. I normally just leave it around the default. And then Bosch, we've got a black and white version. They have a couple of more presets. So I quite like this Cliff preset by Alex I. I think maybe it doesn't quite work on this image. It changes the blue to a little bit green and there's a bit too much warmth. But I find on some images this one works really well. And this Don't Blink one, this one works really well on street photography, taking pictures of buildings. It doesn't seem to work that well on portrait shots though, as I've found. And then there's a lighter black and white one there as well. Okay, that's the first image that I've edited. Let's have a look at another one. It's going to be a bit trickier because we've got quite a lot of light in the background. What's my dad pointing at? I've got no idea. Let's get cracking. Profile, let's change that to landscape. You can see there the blues really come out, changing to landscape. Hit the auto. Got a bit more contrast in the clouds, so I'm doing it auto. I do sometimes mess about with this. Sometimes I find that the shadows goes up a bit too much, makes it a bit too bright. Especially once I've started changing some of the other settings as well. But in this case I'm quite happy with it as it is. Then we're going to scroll down, let's have a look, bit of texture. Now I think a problem that I've got with this image is that I've focused on this rock here and I've not focused on my dad, so it's a little bit blurry here but quite sharp here. And if I start whacking up the texture, although I feel like it helps on my dad, this rock just becomes too sharp, and especially the water as well. So Lightroom's got a really good masking tool, and you can hit subject, and the AI basically tries to determine what the subject is, so hopefully it will correctly grab my dad. Oh yeah, there we go. And then we can change this mask by itself. and so it has its own texture. So I can change the texture now of just my dad. Just going to whack that up. Makes it a little bit sharper, and it's not affected anything else at all. We've got clarity. Oh, if you whack that up, you can see there it looks like he's been photoshopped into the picture. So I think I'm going to leave that quite low down. Got a bit of dehaze as well if we need it. What I like about this masking system is I can now do a duplicate and invert the mask, so it creates a second mask for everything else but my dad. So if I wanted to, I could make it darker. I mean, obviously that looks ridiculous, but one thing that I do like to do sometimes is I like to bring the texture down on what's not in focus. Maybe bring the clarity down as well. It helps to just bring more focus to the subject. Not a great image, obviously. This should have been in focus, but hopefully for the purposes of this video, you can see the editing in action. Okay, now we've got the colour mixer. We've got some nice blues in here. Let's have a look, see if we can maybe... Oh, no, the whole thing's going blue. Maybe we could bring some greens out on the island vegetation. Yeah, a little bit. Darken that as well. What about the yellows? Is there any yellows over there? I think there is. I think I can see a little bit of more vibrance in this area. Darken that a little bit as well. Okay, let's do one more. So, in this picture, we were in the island of Simi. You can't really see because this is the raw file, and the colours seem quite bland in a raw file. But these buildings here, the colours were very vibrant, oranges and blues. So let's see if we can bring these colours out. So yeah, straight away, landscape. Let's do some auto. Ooh, that's put the brightness up a bit. I'm not too sure about that. I might just change that a little bit. These shadows back down. Okay. Bit of texture, because that's what I like. Whack that up. That's a bit too much, obviously, but bit of clarity. Do we want to dehaze? No, I think we're fine on that one. I'm going to bring in a bit of vignetting in. Okay, now on a picture like this, this is where the colour mixer really shines, because we can really start to bring out some of these colours. So let's start with red. And this is very much my style. You'll see a lot of filters out there, or a lot of presets, and they'll really desaturate the image, whereas I'm more the opposite. I quite like to make things a bit more vibrant. So if we look at the roof here, we can see that it's getting a bit red, but unfortunately, so is my dad's nose. So I don't think I'm going to change that too much, maybe just put it up a little bit. And I'm quite a fan of the luminance and turning it down, because it can bring out the colours even more, whereas if you whack it up, it kind of makes it a bit washed out. So I tend to bring it down a little bit. Now the orange. So you can see there, that's having a really big effect. Unfortunately, it's having an effect on my dad's jacket here as well. So I'm not going to bring it up too much. Also his face. Bring it up a little bit. And maybe... there's a bit of orange in the roof as well, so having some unintended consequences here. But I think if I bring the luminance up on that. Gives it a nice balance. Neutral and then move it up. You can see it's having a great effect, and it's not changing anything on my dad here either. So yeah, I think I'm quite happy with bringing this quite up. Now let's have a look at this luminance. No, I think I'll leave that as it is. We have got a little bit of green in this picture, but I'm not too sure there's any need to change that. Let's go to the darker blue. Now I tend to find this darker blue affects the sky area as well, so let's see what happens. Oh, it's affecting this lamppost. It's not having as much of an effect on the sky. Let's bring the darkness down a little bit. Obviously that looks ridiculous, but bring it down a little bit. Let's see if this blue's having any effect on anything. Oh, it is. Some of the buildings here. I think that's it for the colours. Now in Lightroom you can hit the eyeball and it will remove the changes that you've made just on this particular panel. So you can see what it would look like without your changes. So let's hit that now. And then let go. I think that's had a pretty good effect. It's brought out the colours, especially those blues. Especially I'm looking at this area here. It's definitely brought out those colours. Now, I'm not too happy about this sky. I was kind of expecting that once I changed the blue editing, that it was going to darken the sky, maybe bring out the clouds a little bit, but it hasn't. Fortunately, under premium in the presets, we have some sky presets, and this is adaptive. So as I understand it, it's some AI at work here. It detects the sky, and then it will add the preset to it. Blue drama, dark drama. The neon one always makes it green, and I'm not a fan of that one. I think in this case, I quite like the dark drama. So I don't like this big white blob here, basically. So if I put that dark drama in, and with any preset we can change the amount, so we can lessen it or increase it. I think I'll leave it as it is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of the changes off. So I'm going to show the original and then show it with the changes on, and then let me know in the comments if you think the editing has made a good difference to this one. So that's the raw image file. And I always find that once I take the editing off, it always looks washed out. It's hard to believe that this was the original picture, but it was. Now I'm going to put all of the changes back on. I think that's made a really good difference to the picture. So let's export that one. And now, after I've done my changes, I tend to look at the save presets I've got, especially the black and white ones. Not too sure about that one, it's a bit too dark. Let's try this one. Oh no, no, too dark. That's too light. Okay, this cliff one by Alex, I quite like this one. I really like how it makes the buildings look on this filter. I think this is a bit too dark though, so I'm just going to lessen it a little bit. Yeah, maybe it's about that. Let's export that one. And let's have a quick look at the don't blink. No, don't like that one. Yeah, I thought the cliff one did make a difference. Okay, And that's basically my editing, so very much amateurish. I'm a hobbyist. My editing isn't as good as a lot of the other content creators on YouTube, but I wanted to show this from the perspective of a novice, of an amateur, on how you can really add some enhancements to your pictures, make them pop quite easily in Lightroom. Lightroom has a lot of presets, a lot of automation built into it to make editing a picture easier. And so for somebody like me who isn't a professional, I can quickly and easily enhance my photos so I can get them out there on my website and on Twitter, etc. And it's made a big difference to my overall workflow. So yeah, I really like Lightroom. I'm going to play some music now and show you some more pictures of my lovely father. Thank you very much for watching.